Simon Peter answered Jesus, "Lord, to whom can we go? You have the words of eternal life. We have come to believe and know that you are the Holy One of God." This is where we are going. Today we hear the prelude of Jesus' so-called bread of life speech in the Gospel of John, beginning with the sign of feeding thousands of people. For the next 4 weeks, we will work our way through Jesus' subsequent speech, concluding on August 25th with the central point and core message, "Lord, to whom can we go?" Peter asks, and then immediately answers on behalf of so many of us through the ages, "You have the words of eternal life. You are the Holy One of God." With all the tough stuff in our world, the reality of death, the devastation of loss, the unfairness and precariousness of life, we might wonder what to do. What can we do? We may start where Jesus starts today, asking, where are we to buy bread for these people to eat? A large crowd was coming towards him. Again, the crowds of people just would not relent, even when Jesus tried to get away for some rest. Crowds of people pursued Jesus because the people saw the signs that he was doing for the sick. And so a large crowd was again still coming, and Jesus wonders aloud, where are we to buy bread for these people to eat? Philip is with Jesus, naming the problem more specifically. 6 months' wages would not buy enough bread for each of them to get a little. Andrew looks around and notices a boy with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, and quickly realizes that that too is not enough, not even close. There is an abundance of people. There's also an abundance of grass on which the people can sit. And so Jesus tells the people to sit. Jesus takes the bread, gives thanks, and distributes it. Same with the fish. And the people eat as much as they wanted. When all are satisfied, the broken fragments are gathered up and fill 12 baskets. I wonder if the people pursuing Jesus that day, because they saw the signs he was doing for the sick, I wonder if they expected another sign. I wonder if they expected to indeed be a constituent part of a sign of God's abundance and grace. This 4th of Jesus' signs in John's gospel is known as a miracle in the other gospels. And it is the only one that's found in all 4 of the gospels. Much ink has been spilled trying to rationally explain what might have actually happened, because it's hard to believe the unbelievable. One of the many gifts our dear friend Herb offered us was an understanding of faith as mysterion, mystery. Herb knew the power of story to express the truths of our lives and the mystery of our faith. No one did it better. A small piece of Herb's wisdom that a parishioner shared with me this week read, "A religion that you could understand would interest you intellectually and clinically, but it would never intrigue, inspire, mystify, or haunt you for a lifetime." Jesus' signs were miracles, intriguing, inspiring, mystifying, haunting us. The heart of faith is mysterion, revealing Jesus' identity as fully God and fully human. More than believing intellectually, we have the opportunity to live this sign of abundance in our everyday lives. We've experienced it, for instance, when we gather on Wednesday evenings to pray and to feast. More than once, the organizers have been a little unsure about how the meal would come together, even just a day or two before. And most notably was one particular week, a while back, when there was some concern on the day. How will we have enough meatballs for all these people to eat? And then the crock pot of meatballs just kept having enough, and more than enough, even as almost double the number of people who had been planned for attended and ate and were satisfied. Leftovers were sent home with those who wanted them. More than clinically understanding, we also have the opportunity to live Jesus' sign of feeding Sunday by Sunday in our Eucharistic celebration. In John's Gospel, the sign of feeding the 5,000 is the closest story we have to a Lord's Supper. There's a Last Supper in John, but no Lord's Supper per se, the way the stories are told in the other three Gospels. In John, it's this story that contains the Eucharistic pattern: take, bless, break, give. It just comes in a little bit of a different order. Jesus took the loaves, our story says, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated. It isn't until after the people have as much as they wanted that the brokenness becomes apparent. When all were satisfied, the fragments of bread, the broken pieces of 5 barley loaves, are gathered into baskets. Nothing is lost. Not even the broken pieces are lost or abandoned. Likewise, Jesus doesn't ignore or judge or turn away from our brokenness, our anger, our disappointment, our fear, our failures, our unfinished business, things done and left undone. The brokenness of communities scattered by the need to evacuate their homes because of the threat of forest fire. The brokenness of watching from afar as fire does its worst. The brokenness we experience and anticipate from the loss that is change, like as we think about our beloved music director, Marlon, completing his ministry with us later next month. The brokenness of grief, when much loved family and friends die. Gather up the fragments left over, Jesus commands the disciples, so that nothing may be lost. Take, bless, break, give. The Eucharistic pattern is a pattern for our lives. We take what comes in life and in death, the good days and the hard days, the gifts and the losses. We bless it all whenever we acknowledge God's presence in the fullness of life's circumstances. Acts of blessing hallow the everyday by acknowledging the reality of God's love through it all. Our brokenness lets God's light and love in our hearts and in our heads, in our bodies and souls. And from the fragments of our broken lives, we give of our whole selves. For it is in giving that we know the power of God's grace and healing, the miracle of God's abundance. Take, bless, break, give. Take what comes, bless it all, break open our lives, give of ourselves in God's love and service. Such is the beginning of eternal life and of knowing Jesus as the Holy One of God.